It's going to give you some 3 different languages to look at the game and go through. I tried to read these, I didn't understand. Bear was able to read these though, so he actually taught me the game in 3 languages, which is interestingly enough, because you wouldn't think that that would be the case. Bear, hold these.
Join the team.
Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new deck builder. Let's get locked in. Yes, we are locked in and ready to go. This one is Draconis Invasion. So it does have the branding on it, Kenji Inc., Kenji Toys, but this did come to us from Passport Games, and that's where you will find this. Let's look at some stats real quick. We got 45 minutes on this one, and that's one thing that I really like about this particular deck builder, is it does play out pretty quickly, and you can actually play it a lot faster than 45 minutes if you get into a certain scenario and have a certain strategy, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we start to look at some of the gameplay that we have here. It's for 1 to 6 players, so you definitely can solo this game, which is a nice benefit. Ages 14 to adult, and I will say, for this particular game, I would think that you could play with some younger ages than 14. That may be strictly due to the artwork. There's nothing on here that I would call risque per se, or overly gory, but it is a more mature adult style artwork. I wouldn't consider it like cartoony, and I do really like the artwork. That's something I wanted to call it for this particular game. The artwork is fantastic. It really does look good. It's got a really good dark thematic feel, which I think goes with the theme of this game, and there is some lore that you can read about that's in the rulebook here. We'll hit that in a second. But I wanted to show the box because one of the things I thought they did a good job with was really setting up this game for future build-out. And you can tell that by looking at the box here. They've got these nice interior cardboard connectors here, and they are pretty stiff. They're not flimsy. They're pretty tough in that box. There are a few different other rule books in different languages. We'll set those there to the side. And then you'll see they included these little foam, connectors, and they do have some cards that you can put in that will, separate the different types of cards you're going to see here on the table. And there's quite a few cards left in here that you'll use to play out just what's in this base version. So you can see that they definitely are looking to expand this game over time and give you the room all within this core box set to be able to store all those cards. And I like that when companies, take the initiative to give you that box that's the right size for what it's going to take go forward, or what they at least plan to do go forward. Versus trying to cram everything into a box where it really doesn't fit, or you got to carry the main box with a bunch of expansion boxes around. They did a nice job with the packaging of the box there. Like I said, there are a couple rule books that they have included outside of the English version of the rule book, which are in different languages, which is nice. It's going to give you some 3 different languages to look at the game and go through. I tried to read these, I didn't understand. Bear was able to read these though, so he actually taught me the game in 3 languages, which is interestingly enough, because you wouldn't think that that would be the case. Bear, hold these. So let's go ahead and just get into the rulebook right away. I think they did a pretty nice job with the rulebook. It's very small, as you can see here, and it does list out the rules. Got some color, got some artwork, how you would set up the game, which I'm glad that they did that. They put a picture right here. It's kind of small, but they put a picture right here that shows essentially how you would lay this game out. And then they do show you, and they take it by chapter in this book, which is nice. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. Where you'll go through and you'll be able to figure out each thing. It's only a few pages of reading. It's actually very quick, and you're up and playing. The most time that you will spend in setup is just setting this up, basically putting the cards out that you need for that particular battle. And we'll talk about that because there's 2 mechanics of this game that I really like, and it has to do with 1, how you go through battles of these cards, and 2, how you actually do combat against these invaders down here. And we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit, because I think they did a nice job with this deck builder with those 2 particular mechanics. Okay, so very short rule book. There is a layout of each one of the cards, and it does define and kind of go over each one of those cards, which is very nice as well. You have all of your battle stages listed out here. We'll talk about that and why that's so important. And then in the very back, there is a Chapter 14, which is the lore of the game. And I do suggest that you read this first. Again, it's just this right here. It's very short. But it gives you a good cue up of the lore behind this game, what this game's about, and it makes it, for me, it makes it more fun when you understand the lore and the design behind the games, and then you play. It just brings out the theme, and it brings out the fun, in my opinion, when you play the game. All right, so that's the rule book. That's what you're going to find here. It's pretty short and pretty simple. You are going to have some player guides that are included here, which is going to have the starting threat level. We'll talk about that here on one side, and then on the other side, it's going to list out the various actions you can take on your turn. And this game uses something they call an ABCD approach, and each one of those letters stand for a different thing that you're going to do on your turn. You'll do those right in order, and that will be right on your card. You literally can just read this card and know exactly how to play the game outside of a few, rules or symbols on cards where you're like, oh, I wonder what that means. All that will be in the book. But you can very simply play the game with literally what's on this card right here. Now, they have added some updated rules. They're out on BoardGameGeek.com, which adds an E and an F. So you have an A, B, C, D, E, F now system. And on Board Game Geek, it will explain what those rules are. It's just a couple little things that you can do. You don't have to play with those rules. You can just use these here. And it had to do with some errata stuff, and this version of the game that I received didn't have that printed up in the rule book. So if you do want to use the E and the F as part of the system, you can find that on Board Game Geek. If not, you can play with these rules right here, and there's nothing wrong. I've played with them both, and it does make a difference in some situations, but it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. For each their own, whichever rule set you want to play with. If you want to use the E and the F, you can. It's out there. If you don't worry about it. Okay? So we're not going to spend a lot of time going over what's in front of us. I'm going to do a little bit of gameplay because this is a standard deck builder. And if you've played a deck builder in the past, you're going to see something that's very, very familiar. You've got your gold cards. These are going to be cards you're going to acquire. You're going to start off with some of them. You're going to acquire over the course of gameplay that are going to be able to allow you to buy the cards that you see right out here. So this top row are cards that are considered action cards. And these are cards that will allow you to do things when you play them. So, for instance, if we were to buy this shape-shifting, again, the artwork is awesome on these, shape-shifting action card, shape-shifting. You buy the shapeshifter here. It does cost 50 gold to be able to buy that, so on your turn you'd have to discard 50 gold within your hand. If you had that, and then you could purchase this card, it would then go directly to the top of your discard pile. That's how any card you purchase is going to that's what's going to happen there. It's never going to go right into your hand. Again, it kind of follows those standard deck builder rules where as soon as you acquire a card, it goes into that discard pile, and then once you burn through the whole deck, you can then shuffle it in again and get your card back. You do start with 12 cards, so it isn't like you start with a huge deck. You do move through the decks pretty quickly, which is nice. Now, this one says that discard any number of cards, gain +1 card to your hand per card discarded. So if you had this card in your hand already and you wanted to play that as an action, and on your turn you can play one action, this card actually gives you an A+1, which means this card will allow you to play it. You can also take another action. And that's the beauty to this top row. These are just ways that you can do various different things on your turn. You might want to do multiple actions where you can normally only do one. You might want to be able to buy multiple cards when you can only buy one on your turn. These types of cards are going to allow you to do that, and it's going to be just a little symbol right up top here. Very, very simple. It's just A+1, B+1. They really follow that ABCD system all the way through the game, and that's what that means. It's very, very simple, and it aligns right to your turn order that you have on your card right here. Okay, that's how all these cards are going to work, and they're all going to do different things. Like this one actually allows you to get more cards, and this Cursed Fury here, inflict +10 damage during this turn, gain 1 terror card. And you got to pick up a terror card if you use that one. So let's go right up here and jump, and we'll hit these terror cards, and then I'll talk about what's down here. All right, these terror cards are things that are going to come into your hand, and they're going to sort of clog up your hand, almost like you can think of wound cards and other deck builders and other games where you take wounds, and now all of a sudden you got wounds stuck in your deck, and you got to try to get them out of there, and they clog up your hand. Well, whenever you get these terror cards and you draw one and they're in your hand, when you discard that terror card, you have to actually increase this little die here, and it's the only die that's included in the game. It is a standard D6. You can use any D6 you'd like to. This one does have a really good look, though. I like the teal color with the dark blue. And the 6 is sort of a flaming skull, which is pretty cool looking. So, I would suggest using this one just to kind of go with the game. But you could, if you lose this, you can use any D6 you want. And you will increase it. So at the beginning of the game, when you start off, you'll roll this die. And that will start your terror count. And on this card right here, it will tell you what actually happens. So if I was to start the game and I was first player, I'd roll this. Oh, I got a 4. Okay, well that means that all players gain 1 terror card and 2 treasure cards. And all players would start with that. So this serves 2 purposes. One, it kind of sets and locks in something that's going to be different at the beginning of every game. Whether you lose a card, you gain terror cards, you get a treasure card, whatever. Right? It's going to set that, but it's also going to set the terror counter. So it would start at 4, and then again, if I had a terror card in my hand over the course of game, and I had to discard that card, because I pulled it into my hand, every time you discard a terror card, you would increase that threat level count, and then it would be 5. And let's say on another person's turn, they had a terror card in their hand, and then it would increase to 6, and let's say the next person had it, and then it would, okay, now it's over 6. So when that happens, you would go down and you would then draw an event. And that's how events happen. It's whenever the terror counter ticks over 6 and starts back over at 1, you'd then draw an event and you'd read that event. And these events do all kinds of different things. Like this one here says, reshuffle and reveal new invader cards, ignore effects. Players with the most skills must gain 1 terror card to the top of their deck. All right, and every one of these is a little bit different. At the very bottom of this deck is this retreat, final event card. When you hit that and that's revealed, that would trigger an immediate end game. So that's how the game will end, is once you burn through all of these events. The game will also end if at any point in time a player around the table is able to defeat 6 invaders. So once they've got 6 invaders, and again, I've already kind of started to set this example up as a 3-player, and we started to kind of play a little bit, and we've got a few invaders that we've beaten. Once someone has 6, that will also trigger end game. So I'll come back to that because I want to talk about that mechanic specifically. Now, let's jump over here. This bottom row here, the red row. So again, in review, the top row is all of our actions, things that we want to do to be more robust and versatile on our turn. We might want to spend money to pick those up and put them in our hand. This bottom row is going to be your defenders. And these are going to be the cards you're going to use to fight our invaders down here. And the invaders do have a blue, a little bit of an easier row, and a gold, a little bit of a more hard, a tougher row, a tougher enemy that's down here. These would follow the same feel as most deck builders, where on the card, and this is the Mighty Warlord, he does 20 damage, and there's a little symbol right here with like claws that say 20. That means he'll do 20 damage against something that's here, and it costs 50 gold, so it shows a little gold with a claw of 50. You'd have to actually have him in your hand as well as 50 gold, and then throw all that down and then attack something. So that's how that will work. And then there's also a little ability that's at the bottom, not of all of them, but of some of them. And there is for the Warlord. And he says, you may gain 1 Imperial Guard card into your hand to play immediately. So that's pretty cool. You can go ahead and just pick up an Imperial Guard immediately right into your hand. And then that's going to give you basically 25. Because the Imperial Guards are 5 each. Which, for 25, you can take out most of anything that's going to be on this top row. I believe 30 is as high as the top row goes. And then this bottom row here will be 35, 40, 45, and, a little bit higher. Again, those are going to be worth more points at the end of the game. And that's kind of the point here. You're not necessarily playing against other players in this deck builder. At no point in time will you ever use your cards to attack another player. You're always going to be attacking the game. So every player is attacking the game. The only way you win is at the very end by either, 1, it's been triggered by the events have run out, or 2, someone's killed 6 invaders. You would then add up all the points that are on these invader cards, and it will show this little like shield with a star on it. That is basically how many points, you can think of victory points or glory points at the end of the game that this would be worth. So this would be 1 glory point for this skeletal soldier here, which I love the artwork on the skeletal soldiers. They're very, very cool. Where these up here that have been defeated already, we've got a Hellhound worth 2 glory points and a Succubus worth 1 there. So that's how that's going to work. Player with the most glory points is the winner. The only way that you can kind of offset that in a somewhat secret way is by these little campaign cards here. And that deck is right here. And you're going to draw those over the course of your turn. Every time you take a turn, you can draw 2 of those, either the ones that are face up that are here, or from the deck, because you just maybe don't want those, you want to take a chance, you can draw the one from the deck. All these are going to do is give you a little bonus. So you'll see right up top here, there's a bonus on these cards, and it says Skeletal Soldier ×2. So over the course of game, if you're able to kill 2 skeletal soldiers, at the end of the game, you'll get a bonus 4 glory points. Every card works exactly like that. There's no complexity to these whatsoever. You literally just look at what's right there, and that's your bonus at the end of the game if you're able to accomplish what it lists out at the top, either killing 1 of that type or 2 of that type or whatever it says. At the bottom here, it does kind of ghost out what that type of monster has, like 10 health and 1 glory point. That's what you're going to get anyway with just the monster at the end, and then that's the bonus. So don't get them confused and think you add that up again at the end. This is what you already get by having the monster. That's the bonus. And they literally are that simple. And the only reason to having that is it gives the players a little bit of that secret bonus win at the end where other players may think, oh, I'm ahead. I've killed the most monsters, and everything's out in the open, right? So I've killed the most invaders. I know exactly I'm ahead, but you don't know what everybody has with their campaign cards and what those extra bonuses are going to be there at the end. So I like that. It's a little bit of that, secret win at the end that nobody can really see. Okay, so we kind of took a look at these cards here. I'm using 2 of them, and I do that just so I can see the threat level on one, and I can see the turnover view on the other one. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the cards that we have and all the things that we're going to have in this game. We've kind of gone over. This is a 3-player setup. You're going to start with 12 cards. That's going to be 7 gold cards and 5 of the Imperial Guards. It's going to make up your 12. So you got a little bit of fight, a little bit of gold, and then you're going to draw 6 cards. You always have 6 cards in your hand unless you got hit with something from an invader that didn't allow you to do that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And then you're going to start the game with 2 campaign cards. It's going to be kind of a random draw. You're going to get 2 of them. You'll notice here that I have more because it was a game that we were sort of playing out that I left on the table here. Started a 3rd game, so I wanted to have a little bit of a variation between some of these players. You'll see this player has killed 1 invader and this player has killed 2. So let's talk about those 2 awesome mechanics that I think make this deck builder maybe not a completely different than any other deck builder that's out there, but it makes it fun and it makes you come back to the table. The first one is with these cards here. So remember our action cards and our defender cards. There are tons more of those cards in this box that we looked at the very beginning, and they call those battles. So you start off, and it will list right in the rule book exactly which cards you'll need for each one of these rows. This is for battle 1, okay? Now, if we wanted to go into Battle 2, it'd be different cards. Battle 3, different. Battle 4, Battle 5. So every time, the cards will be different. They'll be a little bit more challenging to play with. They kind of scale with your skill as you play as a player from game to game, which I like that. But one thing that I find that's fun about that is it brings you back to the table. This is one thing that says, okay, I played this game, and if it was just shuffle everything together and put it out, I'm going to be honest, for me personally, those kinds of deck builders get boring for me pretty quick because I play a few times and it's like, okay, I like games that keep changing it up and bringing something new from game to game. And this deck builder does that because you will step through those battles, and each game you'll have different cards to interact with and different strategies to use. That is really good. It's a really good design for a deck builder like this. So that's a big thumbs up. And the other mechanic that I really like is on the invaders here. You'll notice that every invader card has a little text at the bottom. And that's what's actually going to affect the player taking out an invader. Now, you may say, well, they all have this text at the bottom, so you're probably going to look at these cards and think, well, which one do I really want balanced with which thing do I not want from the text that's on the bottom? And that's not particularly how this works. You don't know what you're going to get hit with because you don't get hit with the text that's at the bottom of the invader that you beat and take. So if I was to fight this succubus and take this succubus, what says revealed, attacking player draws 4 cards instead of 6. So on my next turn, I couldn't draw back up to 6. I'd only be able to draw up to 4. That's not what I get hit with. I kill the succubus, if that's what I did on my turn, and then it's the next card that comes out. Then it's the next card that comes out. That's what the player, the active player, gets hit with. So it's always a surprise. You don't really know what you're going to get hit with and what's going to come out. So in that instance, if I would have taken out that succubus, I'd flip this, and now what happens to me? Well, when the skeletal soldier is revealed, attacking player rolls the terror die to set a new terror count. So I'd roll that, whoop, off the arm, and it's 1. So that's now the terror count. It's at 1. And that might have been good because maybe it was at 4 or 5. If the skull appears, reveal an event. So basically, if you roll a 6, or if the skull appears, which is the 6, then you would have to reveal an event immediately. Versus waiting till it ticked over. So that's how that mechanic is going to work on the invaders, and I like that. I like that you don't have to, you're not making that decision of what you don't want. You're literally making the decision of what you want on the invader stack. What do you need? What do you want based on your campaign cards for your extra bonuses? Based on looking at just the glory points, their victory points, whatever you want to call that they're worth. And you might just want it for that, but then you don't know what's going to happen to you. So, for instance, if I went for Balar here, 4 glory points, wow, it's a good one. I'd want to go for him. He's worth 40 health, so I'd have to have some pretty good cards before I'd be able to take him out. But then pulling out another one, it says, well, it was another Balar, but it says, revealed, attacking player chooses another player. You each gain 1 terror card. So then, boom, it's immediately 2 more terror cards out into people's hands. So, that's a good example because it's not going to be something that's always going to just affect you. Some of these things will affect other players as well. Okay? And that's how the game works. Those are the mechanics that I really like. Again, I'm going to do some short gameplay here. So let's just say I was this character, and we'll do a couple turns here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll have 6. Let's look at our campaign cards. What do we got? Okay, Skeletal Soldier ×2 and a Hellhound ×1. And I believe I've already got a Hellhound and a Succubus. I don't have any Skeletal Soldiers yet, and there is one out on the board. So let's say it was the first turn. I'm going to look at my cards in my hand. Okay, what do I got? I got 3... I got 2 Imperial Guards, and I have a Warlord, all right? Because I'd already been playing again, so I picked that Warlord up. And I have 3 gold cards in my hand, and those are worth 10, 20, 30 gold. So those are just the standard gold card. Now, I could spend gold and pick up a treasure card, which would give me plus 20. Here's a treasure card plus 30. So again, you can spend gold to pick up bigger gold cards. I might do that. I don't know. We'll see here. Because if I want to use this Warlord for 20 hit, I need 50 gold. And I don't have 50 gold. So I'm not going to be able to even use this Warlord. Which means I only have these 2 Imperial Guards to do 10 hits. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cash in 30 gold. All right, and with that 30 gold, I'm going to buy a treasure card, which is going to go to the top of my deck there, my discard deck, giving me a bigger gold card that I can cycle into my deck. And I can't use this Warlord, but I can use the 2 Imperial Guards. So I'm going to use 2 Imperial Guards, and I'm going to attack this Skeletal Soldier, because I need 2 of these to get my extra bonuses per my campaign card. And that is only 10 health. And that's 10, so I can do that. Boom, it's done. I've defeated that guy. These guys all go to the discard pile because I'm essentially done. And then I will draw immediately a new card, and it's another Skeletal Soldier. We saw that there early in our example. And it says attacking player rolls a terror die to set the new terror count. If it's a skull, we got to do a event. No skull, baby. And it's a 2. Okay, so the new threat count is a 2. Again, you don't activate that text every time. It's only there at the very beginning of the game. Past that point, then it's just a counter to activate our events here. Now, the one thing that I didn't do, and I didn't want to do it on my turn, and you don't have to. It specifies here that C of the ABCD system is campaign. You may draw 2 new campaign cards. So you can draw 2 new campaign cards if you want to. I didn't want to do that, so I didn't on that turn. I didn't want to do that. All right, so let's go to the next player. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is how many cards they're going to draw. And we got an Imperial Guard. We got a bunch of money. All right, 1, 2, oh man. So we got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 gold here. All right, let's think about this, because that's a lot of gold to be able to have. And I might want to capitalize on one of these really good action cards here. And there's one here that's called Rush to Battle that's really versatile. It gives me plus 10 gold. It gives me plus 1 card. And it gives me plus 1 action that I can take. So I can play 2 action cards on my turn if I have this. I can get plus 10 gold. I can draw an additional card into my hand, that card plus 1, and I can take 2 action, which means I can play 2 action cards in 1 turn. You know what? I think I'm gonna get that one because it's a really good card, and I'm gonna cash in all 60 of this gold. And then I only have an Imperial Guard left that does 5 damage, and no one here I can beat with 5 damage. So that would be the end of that as well. And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and draw 2. I'm going to take that because I bought my card. The next thing I would want to do is the campaign, which you may draw 2 new campaign cards. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 2 new campaign cards, and I'm going to take it from... you know what? I'm going to take this Reaper, and I'm going to take this Necromancer, and I'm going to draw... Those are going to be 2 new campaign cards for me that I'm going to draw. Okay? And that would essentially be the end of that player's turn, because there was nothing they were able to actually beat. And again, that campaign, the drawing of the cards, that will happen before you go into any battle with an invader. You should do those in order. So I want to make sure that's clear. I'm not jumping all over the place. That there is a specific order that you're going to want to go through when you do that. And now those campaign cards have been drawn, you're going to flip 2 more out face up, because you always want to give all players that option to either draw something that's face up, or I don't really want any of those. I want more than what I have because it doesn't really work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 2 more of these here. So that's Draconis. That's the game. It's very, very simple. Again, we went over those 2 mechanics that I really like with this particular deck builder. I do suggest this game if you are into deck builder games, you really like deck builder games. Again, it is a very simple game, in my opinion, from a deck building perspective, but it does get pretty fun when you play this with multiple players. It even is pretty fun solo, specifically because of those 2 mechanics, with how you go through the battle by battle by battle with different cards, and because of that mechanic where you really don't know what you're running into. I think that's more fun and more of a surprise when you're playing with more people, because it's really funny when someone says, oh yes, I got the card I want, and they flip the next one, they're like, oh my god, like what they get hit with really sucks. So that's Draconis. Good game. Passport Games, nice work with this one. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team, ring the bell. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Roll 'em crits!